Well, the time has finally come. Everyone, today we find out who truly is the strongest legends in the Apex games. We have 4 legends left and you won't be surprised by who ends up being the strongest one. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. My name is Prox, and if you like this video, please let me know by leaving a comment and a like. First in the list we have our 4th strongest legend that is 48 years old and comes from the planet Gaia. If you're not sure of who I am talking about, well, I'm talking about the toxic trapper Alexander Knox, aka Caustic.
I don't concern myself with the ambitions of insects.
Well, he may be a surprise to some and a given for others, but first let me tell you about his character and his story. Caustic used to be a scientist for a company called Humbert Labs. He was one of the top scientists there who helped the frontier with all sorts of pesticides to help out with the crops and simply make the frontier better. Caustic worked day and night trying to make the best pesticide with stronger chemicals and even more radical results of the Outlands, but he one day realized that the normal procedures put in place were making his investigation a lot slower. He didn't want to experiment with inert tissue anymore, since he knew that it would take decades for his experiment to be finished or simply to perfect it. He needed live test subjects. He started to experiment more and more, finding beauty in his creation as he watched how his gas destroyed anything it came into contact with. The head of Humbert Labs quickly found out about Caustic's experiments and confronted him. This confrontation ended with the lab ending up in flames, with Caustic and the head of Humbert Labs presumably dead. That day, Alexander Knox was no longer. 10 years later, a man without a name showed up with the alias of Caustic. So, now that you know his story, or at least a very summarized part of it, we can now get deeper into why he deserves to be in the top 4, and let me tell you, Caustic is insanely scary. Since if you paid attention, his gas can actually destroy everything it comes into contact with. By this, it means that if you were trapped by him, your clothing would melt away like nothing, before your skin slowly starts to peel away off your body. This goes on and on until you're basically just a pile of bones, or even simply a pile of dust. Just the thought of someone that can reduce you to dust if he wanted to, it's surprisingly scary. Not surprisingly, it's just scary all the way around. Well, we have to add on top of that Caustic is one of the greatest minds in the entirety of the Outlands. This means that he will be able to lay traps in incredibly smart ways, or even use other fighters to lure more test subjects for him to try his gas on. He also carries a special mask and liquid perfected by himself that makes him be unaffected by his gas. So, what this means is that Bloodhound's mask and Wraith's face mask won't do jack shit against the gas. They will simply melt away and kill them. So you tell me, would you be able to take the mastermind that has the certain ability to peel your skin away? That's up to you. On my number 3 spot, I have the 32-year-old that comes from the world Typhon and cannot remember her past, the pilot who became an interdimensional skirmisher, the crazy e-goth girl that every YouTuber wants to marry apparently, Wraith.
Try not to blink.
I'll be honest with you, I would love to tell you her complete story, but I think that would absolutely take like half of the video, if not more, since her story is so convoluted and complex. But I will tell you a small and summarized version of her story so we can all have an easier time, okay? Okay. Wraith used to be a pilot that volunteered for a certain experiment that made her start to hear voices in her head. Wraith was experimented on by a lot of scientists, but one day another Wraith came through a portal in search of revenge from those scientists. She helps out the Wraith that is starting to hear voices and helps her escape the facility by changing places in realities. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. This story is complicated as shit, and I hope I summarized it while still making sense. The worst part about Wraith is that her story is still developing, and with Mirage and Watson and so much stuff has been added. But hey, you got the base of her story. Which is good enough, I think, since she just wants to know who she is, and it's slowly being able to get to that point. Wraith's abilities are quite strong, and I have met people who think Wraith is almost unbeatable thanks to her abilities like Into the Void or the voices in her head. But as we see in the trailer right now, she can go into the void for a few seconds and then appear again, doing it in quick succession, but she's still able to get hit by bullets, and the voice in her head can play a bad part on her side if she were ever to fight Mirage face to face, thanks to his amazing decoys. Wraith is in my top 3 since we've seen her beat Caustic many times before. She also seems to be quite reliable in fights, and her portal seems to be one of the strangest but strongest abilities in the game. Overall, Wraith can actually let her emotions get the best of her, making her commit errors and not listen to the voices in her head, making her get injured or even trap herself in a worse position. I know that I didn't give Wraith too much time as I did with Caustic, but we all know how strong she is already, and we all know how good she is in the games and in the lore. So I did not think I should specify too much on why Wraith is good. So yeah, all you Wraith fans out there, please don't kill me for placing her in 3rd. But up next we have a Scottish doctor that is technically a centenarian, but looks like a 33-year-old, that comes from Samathi. That's right, I'm talking about Dr. Mary Summers, aka Horizon.
If not even like an escape the event Horizon, how do you think you'll escape me?
Her story is quite sad, but I'll be short and simple with it since I don't want anyone crying while watching this video. Horizon is one of the greatest scientists around and was hired by a big company. I really couldn't find exactly what company she worked for, but I'm pretty sure it was Hammond Labs. She moved to Olympus, the 3rd map, and started to live there with her son Newton. She started to work there, trying to find a way to find unlimited electricity or power. One day she finds the component that can actually provide that power, and it's called Branthium. This would perfectly provide the energy, but the one thing is that it was located in some of the rings of an ever-growing black hole. But Horizon, before leaving with her helper Mary Wade, she promises her son Newton that she will come back home safe and sound. She goes on the trip, and once Horizon finds the Branthium, she is betrayed and left for dead in space. So she focuses on her promise to her son and starts to do whatever she can think of to try and find a solution to her problem. Alone in a ship, she starts to modify her robot Neo to find a way to come back. She manages to do it, but sadly, the way that helps her get back into Olympus makes her disappear for 88 years without a trace. She one day finally shows up as if nothing had happened, without aging a single day. She finds out and is crushed by this because at the age of 80, after 88 years, it's probably that her son isn't even alive anymore. So she finds out about the Apex games and enters them to fulfill her promise and to go back to her son, even if she has to travel back in time. So, apart from her story being really sad, but also quite good, I don't know what to say exactly. I love her story. She is probably one of the most fun characters to play with. But I put her in the second place just because of one reason. And I will say one thing and one thing only about her. Horizon carries a fucking black hole on her back. We sadly don't know if she has a cooldown on it or not, but I can only guess that she has to give her robot Newt some time to recharge or something along those lines. But she can also throw this little devices that make her or even some vehicles go up into the air without resistance from gravity or anything like that. Another thing that I will give Horizon is that her motivation is something that cannot be underestimated, as the love of a mother towards her kids is something that seems like an ability in that of its own. So Horizon takes my second place in my list for her abilities and motivation, and that only leaves one character on the list. That's right. On the first place, I have the synthetic nightmare, Remnant.
They made me a killing machine. Who am I to argue with programming?
Remnant is just a machine made for killing. There's no other way around it. With an ever-growing hunger of kills, Remnant earns my top spot for various reasons. For example, he is a stalker that is insanely good at being sneaky. His whole body is perfected to the point where he can kill you with almost anything, with any part of his body. His mind, with him being almost 300 years old or even more, he knows how to handle every weapon perfectly. His arms turn into what seem to be a sword of some kind, and he can also use a supernatural ability. There we go. Of the Death Totem and the Shadows that not even Caustic can understand nor decipher. We have seen Remnant kill loads of people, but the one that I needed proof of is Wraith. Wraith is probably the hardest legend to get a hold of in the games, and Remnant has managed to achieve that. His abilities also scare other legends like Mirage or Loba. It is true that Loba won a fight against Remnant in one of the lore videos that we got, but Loba had a weapon and he didn't, and it also was quite clouded by anger at that point. That's why I personally think that Loba won. Remnant's ability to go into shadow form whenever he pleases is something unreal and incredibly strong. I remember one of the devs said at one point that Remnant could take every legend on one, one after the other, and still win, but he cannot take them all at once. But his mind was made to also make him a perfect shot, as we can see how his scanner works and shows all kinds of details which a human would never be able to see. I imagine that while using a sniper or any type of weapon, he'll tell him exactly where to aim and why, showing the recoil patterns and all that. Remnant is also the legend with the most knowledge and experience in killing, since he is even older than Horizon, being around 300 years old or so. He's not incredibly smart, but he is surprisingly cunning, as he made all the legends turn against each other when Lua showed up in the Apex games. Overall, Remnant takes my top spot just because of all the things he has done. We've seen him kill in spectacular fashion, and none legend comes close to his killing abilities. And that wraps up my entire list. I know I didn't put Valkyrie in it, but I haven't seen enough of her yet to judge her. So don't worry, I will update my list once I see more of her. But until then, I will see you on the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.